So I think you are definitely going to be seeing from and hearing and feeling the presence of the SADC region soon. We always find a way to pick ourselves up, and I think it's on the horizon.
The circuit will come for the tea. For me,
Uh,
I would definitely bring a cup, bring a big pot
yes, a
to
bit.
SAUDC, and I'll just be gathering the tea around. I'm always looking for. I'm always like, I don't like violence. I don't participate in violence, but I'm
Right?
there to observe and gather the information.
But it's so deeply entrenched to a point where the government at one point even banned the student bar from existence, and it was even removed.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Shaft podcast. On this episode, we are featuring what would challenge as one of the biggest sub-regional competitions in Africa. This region has been dominant in the African region for a very, very long time. They had a long list of PANS champions, probably the what people would call the origin of African debate, the Southern African region. Upcoming is the Southern African Universities Debate Championship, which features all countries within the region, the biggest competition within the region. And today we are here to discuss what you should be expecting, the details that you need to know about the competition, what the organization team and the chief adjudication team have in store, but also how this plays a role crucially in rebuilding the Southern African region, which most of you would say is dying down in terms of its dominance within the African region. For now, probably West Africans are jubilating, but I know Southern Africans are taking their time, and once they bound back, the resurgence will be fully on. So on this episode with me is Henry, who is the convener for the competition, and Minnie, who is on the chief adjudication panel as one of the CAs for the competition. So let me start with you, Minnie. You have seen a lot of debate competitions. You've competed in them. You've won PANs. You've come from the Southern African region, and you've seen the dominance of the region. What does SAUDC represent to the region in terms of its preparation, in terms of its role in solidifying the status of debate within the Southern African region?
Hi, Andrews. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for that question. I think the SAUDC tournament has always been the pride of Southern Africa. It used to
yeah,
be, at some point, arguably as competitive as PAUDC, if some
yeah,
would argue more competitive during the dominance of Southern Africa. You'd have
yeah,
best teams coming from Namibia, coming from South Africa, coming from Zimbabwe, who then went on to dominate in PAUDC. So it has always been
yeah,
our fight. I think obviously the COVID era did a number on us. I think maybe through a lack of a sustainability plan, a succession plan,
yeah,
or just maintaining the practice and our presence during that era. I think we might have struggled to transition there, and hence I'd say that's where you lose the SADC region. Well, that's the beginning. Though we had lost
yeah,
pounds the previous year, but I
yeah,
think it's coming back. The role of this year's SAUTC is to try and find our place in the region,
yeah,
African region again. And I truly believe in the region. I've been to Jose Rambo recently, and I see the region is coming back. You have new, young, hungry
yeah,
debaters, equally curious, equally competitive. So I think you are definitely going to be seeing from and hearing and feeling the presence of the SADC region soon. We always find a way to pick ourselves up, and I think it's on the horizon.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like you said, when I joined debate, I came to hear of how dominant the southern region was. I had lots of years competing against the likes of Anam, Dan, Umar. These people were very, very fierce. Dino. got a little bit of lashes from them as well. But
Yeah, yeah,
recently, you see lots of people saying, "Well, the southern region has died down," and I think the competition from there really used to make the African region a very, very, very solid block, because those were where some of the most quality speakers came from.
yeah, yeah.
And we definitely look forward to getting SADC back to that level. But down to you, Henry. This seems like a very, very big task, right? Because you've seen a giant within the African region, whether by design or by normal cycle of events, go down in some aspects, and you find yourself as convener in the middle of trying to rebuild it back to its highest pinnacles. And the question I want to ask is, in your process, because I'm sure this organization have been going on for a while, what are the prospects? Do you think that this is the spark that is going to create the rebranding for the Southern African region? Because lots of people would say, well, there have been previous editions after this down time, but they've not really kickstart the evolution. And how do we know that this time around, with you leading the affairs, we're going to have that kickstart that the region needs?
Hi, Andy. Here's my point of view with the question.
Yeah,
I think sometimes maybe fate has a big role to play in the way these things turn out.
yeah.
Because in the year was 2009. I'm going to give a small history of
Okay.
this. It was the second Pan Africans, and at the time, it was actually still being hosted within Southern Africa. Because as you
Yeah,
might know, in as much as Western Africa seems to have claimed the chalice of Pan African debating, it started right here. And at the time, I was in high
yeah,
school, and it was the first time I was introduced to British parliamentary debating. And I had no
yeah,
idea what this was going on. Extensions, point of information, all those things.
yeah,
And that right there, that's what sparked my love for debate. So what I'm finding now is I think it's almost cosmic of sorts that I am now seeing myself as the convener post 2020, post COVID, to try
yeah,
and respark and reignite the flame that is Southern African debating. And I think
yeah,
the question you've asked me, it's a bit of a trick question. If I'm expected to say, if I was given a POI to ask that question, let's assume this is a debate. If I was supposed to say which will be an instant revamp, I would say that's a
yeah,
misleading question, Mr.
yeah,
Chair. That's a loaded question. The real question is, who really wants to get into the process of starting this? Because I find myself, I
yeah.
was out of the game for a long time. So I saw myself in 2014. I was in the ESL final
Oh,
for reasons that I it was down to God. For some reason, I lost that final,
yeah,
and I told myself I can't wait to see myself in the debating community again. I promised myself I'm gonna do that. Lo and behold, here I am back again after almost 10 years, trying to host this tournament back in UB right in this edition. So that's why I firmly believe that I think I have the right mentality and I have the right people to make this thing work, Andy.
yeah. I mean, it's quite interesting what you mentioned, that sometimes it's difficult to get people who are willing to dig deep, go through the mud, and start the process of evolution. And usually also because those people probably, especially if they are not there at the tail end, which a lot of people who start revolutions never get to be at the tail end, never get the recognition that they deserve. And so everybody goes like, well, why do I start it when someone else goes to get the credit? But to see the love you have for the sport, which is definitely guiding your efforts to work with an incredible team, a team of CAs, Mini, Buemo, who these are people who have seen everything the sport is and what it could be, and these are people who you can entrust to do the work with, to see the efforts that is going into revamping SADC is going to it's going a long way. And personally, I'm obviously a West African. I'm biased towards the West and all that. But like I always say, the African continent is much better having more competition across the region and having the strongest of us come together and compete. Because then that's when everyone hears about these competitions, and the ripple effects go a really, really long way. So it's very nice seeing the goal, the vision behind this as well, and I'm really excited for everyone. One interesting question though, I heard Henry mentioned the ESL category, which he was a finalist of, and I'm going to come to you, Mini, now. It always boggles me why SADC has an ESL category. I just want to understand why it started, because usually we know ESL, it's more like English as second language, and predominantly within Africa there is a notion that at least we all share the same level of English comprehension, similarly within Southern Africa as well. And so why ESL? Because people say if you check the ESL tab and the main tab, there is no difference in the composition of the people that are there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it comes back a long, long time ago
Yeah.
when SAUDC used to have a very strong white community. Um,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And maybe Henry would know. I wasn't there in 2014. But I know that when I joined debating around 2016, 2015, really the people who debate in EFL, you had the strongly white, historically white institutions like UCT, and that's where you'd have David Harris, you'd have Yash,
yeah,
all those. But you had finally debating in the open category,
yeah,
had the historically black institutions and small circuits that were still particularly trying to penetrate the SAUDC circuit, SANUDC at the time. And it was almost impossible to win against the historically white institutions. So we really had to have a category of English as a second language because there were people with
uh,
their first language back then. And
yeah,
with time, it kind of became a just a top room thing. I think where you had novices debating in the ESL
yeah,
category, and people were coming back, the all stars debating in the open category. So I think it's just something that we've held on. I don't know if the conversation has been there to try and do away with those two categories, but that's kind
yeah.
of that's the history behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, before you pitch in on this, Henry, it's quite fascinating because I see a world where it has an auxiliary function of obviously creating a space for, let's say, less competitive or less dominant institutions to
Mm,
still find themselves getting achievements, making higher levels, getting the finals. And these things go a long way to signal institutions to try and keep the funding flowing, which
mm,
is good. But hearing the history of it also really reflects not just what SADC debating used to look like, but
yeah.
also what the SADC region itself used to look like with the history it has
Mm,
as well. And so it's fascinating to see how a single detail in a competition setup could
mm,
reflect the history of the region and the history of
yeah.
why it was set up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Henry, you have been in the space. You took us back to 2009. So maybe if you have a detailed version of the story you want to share, but also whether or not you think it has value now beyond just providing a space for smaller institutions to compete in there.
So, yeah, I think it's important to do like a comparison of the world in 2014, 2009 versus the world that is as it
Yeah,
is now. The way just become more hyper vigilant in terms of what it is that society accepts and what it is society doesn't accept. I think back then maybe it made sense to have an EFL and ESL category, but today, if you try to do it now, there would be these questions. So I think we've now gotten to a point where maybe there can be conversations about rebranding in terms of the naming. Why is it called second language when we're all really speaking the same level of proficiency of English? Because I remember even in 2014, because we were offered to break into the English as a first language because the breaking points that we had, they were high enough to be in the top 16 of teams. But what we told, when I consulted with my partner, we just said, you know what, this is our first ever tournament because at the time we were first years, finishing first years, and we just
yeah,
said maybe let's just gain momentum and progress there. So I think I lean more into the school of thought that you brought in terms of how we have captured a historically oppressive, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word, system of separating the two, and now it's instead just become a stepping stone, a building block to where ESL, as it's called, is more for novices, those who want to get
Yeah.
their speaking their speaking cogwheels moving. So personally, as
Yeah.
a coach, for example, I wouldn't want somebody to be jump right headfirst into speakers who have been in this game for such a long time. So I think that's the value of the category of having two different categories, even though at face value, then the naming suggests the sort of demeaning, as it were, separation of the two streams. I
Yeah.
hope that makes sense.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. I seem to be on the side of maintaining the value but keeping the name as it is, because to be fair, if it wasn't called ESL, I wouldn't know the story, right? I would probably not ask about it. I wouldn't get to know why it was called ESL and whatever history there is about it. But that's up to members of the community to obviously decide. And as debaters, we always tend to pick different sides or different positions on these issues. Is it time to move on? Is it not time? I mean, it's really down to the people to decide. But what has been the some of the drama stories
You
you
know,
guys have
if I might,
experienced?
Andy, before I jump in, right?
Yes, yes, Henry, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Before I get to your question, I just want to realize this conversation. It's reminding me of the broader conversation, perhaps in America, where
Mm.
there are people who want to take down Confederate flags and the
Yeah,
likes, and
yeah,
then they are saying we're trying to hold on to the history.
yeah,
It almost makes me want to sympathize with them, but at the same time, that is clearly more pernicious than the labeling of English second language and the first language. And a
yeah.
lot of the times, I remember one of my old coaches who's on the organizing committee here, and Buemo was actually one of my old coaches. They tell you
Ah,
in order to sell an idea, you must ground it in the reality of that we
yeah,
already know and we're already aware of.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to say that before I forgot. It was like a burning
No
POI.
worries. Yeah, yeah. It's fine. And to be fair, when you mentioned that, the thing that popped up in my head was usually debaters tend to debate these grand things that happen in the world, but in reality, when we bring it down, the details reflect in our everyday circumstances and our everyday lives, and they go into helping us make everyday decisions as well. Um, so I was just asking, I just wanted tea on the drama that has been going on with SADC, SAUDC, and I wanted you guys to tell me your experiences, some of the most dramatic scenes you've seen, um, and whether or not like there's a sense of rivalry, because I know, for instance, in Ghana, usually there's a rivalry between the University of Ghana and Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and almost at every nationals there's a cup of tea that's brewed and served hot to the people, and so I want to hear from you guys whether or not some of these situations exist in there. And Minnie, you can pick on this one for me.
Well, I'm a dinosaur. I wouldn't know what's been happening on the streets. I wouldn't know really what the new tea is. Like recently I was chatting to some members of the region, and what I thought was tea is
Yeah.
not tea anymore. So you find that there's new beef, you have new things going on. But I think at the time, when I was in the circuit, the institution that would always have some controversy around it would have VITs, because they were very
Whoa.
institution, one of the with the largest number of debaters there, and
Oh.
you'd always have tea around that. But honestly, it's old news now. I don't think it's relevant anymore. And I see the rivalry coming back. I do think that is the rivalry that sometimes keeps the competition going. The
Yeah.
collabs, you'd have tournaments that were specifically
Yeah.
made for people to like solve some beef, calling each other out. Yet people with strong personalities in the southern region,
Yeah.
Oliver Dixon, you'd always know that He was always ready to call out people. He had Mighty Jamie. They were all
Yeah.
there in the controversy, in the call out. And I think that's beyond that debating what kept the SADC region very relevant and very active, that you had people who would go out and call out the entire West African region. And it would make the competition interesting. Yeah, we do have our fair share of tea, but I'm not about to scoop the whole circuit. I'm not about to scoop the whole circuit, so I'm just gonna end it here.
The circuit will come for the tea. For me, I would definitely bring a cup, bring a big pot
Yes, a
to
bit.
SAUDC, and I'll just be gathering the tea around. I'm always looking for. I'm always like, I don't like violence. I don't participate in violence, but I'm
Right?
there to observe and gather the information
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so that we can spread the gospel.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, speaking of VITs, I mean, I like I said, I was speaking of Anam, Uma, Lindo. Um, these are people that were from it's very very competitive when I was hyper competitive in the 2019, 2018, 2020, 2021, especially during the COVID era. These guys were heavily dominant. And these days we banter about Wits KNUST, who has the richest history in PAUDC and all that. So to hear that they flood competitions, which
Mm, yeah.
is literally the operational style of KNUST. We go
Mm,
for competitions and usually we have the highest number of teams,
exactly.
which
Yeah.
which usually proves to be the trick. But yeah, it's good to hear that the rivalry is coming back.
Yeah.
Um, Henry, serve us the tea, hot, so that the audience would drink their fair share and then we move on with life.
Ah, ah. I think I'm in the best position to spill tea to West Africa because I am an objective party. On the virtue of the fact that I'm actually originally from Ghana. I'm actually Ghanaian and I've lived here my whole
Interesting.
life.
Ah,
So I have sympathies for West Africa
yeah,
in that sense. But in terms of tea, the tea I too will have to jump onto Minnie's band, what Minnie is saying rather, because I was in the space just before Minnie and it was the same old tea bags in the same old, on the same brewing in the same old cup. We had the issues of the traditionally dominant universities being your UCTs, your VITs, your strong personalities like Mighty Jamie, your Oliver Dixons, and the likes. So I think it's a good thing that I don't have any fresh drama to present to you, which means that we have a new start. It's a blank canvas that we can use and we can create new tea, new drama, and that is going to be based purely on debate because the problem we had with tea was often racial dynamics. We often saw ourselves, especially in terms of
oh
the international global stage. I think
yeah,
at Worlds last time, there was Namibia, I think, was involved with a lot of controversy when Worlds was hosted in UCT. And I think
yeah,
after that, when things combine and they burst, then the drama just died out. I think the
yeah.
drama dying down was a consequence of us not being as competitive as we used to be. So I think the only tea that we have is that we are starting to brew all over again. And in this brewing, hopefully there'll be more interesting stories and that are not grounded and rooted on on bad stuff like race and the likes. So it should
Uh,
be fun to see the new rivalries because we're no
yeah,
longer. Because I remember back in my day when you were debating, it was so hard to beat other institutions because of all the resources that they had, the
yeah,
libraries and all those things. But now you just need to grab your cell phone and you can create the biggest library of debating material in the world. So I expect to see new rivalries, new tea,
yeah,
new drama, and I think SAUDC 2024 will be the start of that.
yeah. I definitely would love to catch up after the competition to dive into the tea that you've gathered and and open up the pot that is brewing. But yeah, it's really interesting to hear some of these things as well. And usually to think that like the rivalries are most likely the same across generations? Because usually we tend to think generations across debate are so different or so distinct. But sometimes when people from different generations sit and you are having conversations, we get to realize that maybe there are different stories, but it's the same undertones, the same narratives around them, and the same motivations around them as well. Um, just a few questions also on what is in store for people at this year's SAUDC. From a CAP perspective, what do you seek to achieve? What are some of the things that you are doing? Because I know, knowing yourself, knowing Buemo, most likely you are also looking at not just creating motions, but also trying to influence the function of this competition in the goal of trying to reignite the region and the debate space within the region as well. So, what are some of the things you are working on that people should be excited about, that you are also looking at leaving a legacy or using to kickstart this evolution of re-establishing the Southern African circuit?
Okay. We were having this conversation with Boyemo earlier, and really, what our idea is to try and bridge the gap that you were talking about between
Yeah,
this old generation and new generation.
yeah,
And our idea of doing that is to pass on the wealth of knowledge that we've
yeah,
accumulated in these years, because with people like me and Boyamo coming back into the circuit, you really do have access to, for example, with someone working with someone like, I'm a fan of Boyamo myself, so I'll be fan the entire time I'm working with Boyamo, and you learn so much
yeah,
Boyamo, and you definitely know that you're not getting anything mediocre from that experience in itself. And
yeah,
we really look forward to training adjudicators, to training a new generation also of CAP members, because if you look at our circuit right now, you really do have some kind of the same faces still doing the
yeah,
camping, and these are the people who have experience that spans to 2013 and 2014. So we're really
yeah,
trying to create dynamite here. We're also trying to create future world cap members through
yeah,
the experience that they'll have with working with people like Boyemo and myself. You could even look
yeah,
at the application in itself.
yeah.
This year, our application for DCAs was a speech. So you had to send a video of yourself.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah. A 7-minute video of yourself on a motion that says this house would select me as the DCA
Wow.
you see. And yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people complaining about why it's new videos are uncomfortable, but it's just, I think it's a glimpse of what Boemo and I have in store for you. We're not here to,
Yeah,
we really want the people that are serious, people that want to test themselves, people that want to push themselves and think outside the box in its inherently, and it's really what we hope to achieve. But more
yeah,
than anything, I think the adjudication in itself, beyond just the Southern African circuit, in the African circuit in itself, I think it's something that we need to pay more attention to. And we just hope
yeah,
to have as much workshops as we can leading towards the tournament. And we have
yeah,
equally a strong legacy of adjudicators from the SAUDC circuit. So, yeah, just
yeah.
just watch, and yeah, we just want to do great things for this tournament. Yeah.
I mean, this is really lovely. There's a lot of fascinating things in there from the DC application style. I'm going to copy it and use it for whichever competition I see next. These days I barely see it, but if I do, I'm
Yeah,
definitely going to love to see people sending in 7 minutes speeches
yeah.
for DC
With
applications.
the applications, yeah.
Yeah, but to see yourself and Buemo on CAP, it's really really powerful because usually the resurgence of these competitions come with trust and people trusting these competitions. And sometimes when the circuit is dying, people who are of the status like yourself of Buemo we see them distancing themselves, and then it just goes downhill from there because the names you see on CAP and the reputation around them doesn't and excites people enough to come around and experience the quality of the competition. But to see yourself, to see Buemo, and I worked with Buemo on PADC 2022 Cup for Kenya, and he's a good end of story.
Yeah.
Like Buemo is one of the greatest debates figures to be on the African continent currently,
Mm,
and you look at him, you look at yourself, that reestablishes trust, that reestablishes seriousness in rebuilding the circuit. And I would say like the circuit should be really grateful to have the two of you on CAP for this edition. And
mm,
with the wealth of knowledge you intend to pass on as well, I'm really, really sure you'd leave a lasting impact
yeah.
and get us back to competing much more competitively.
Yeah.
Henry, I mean, I've heard CAP talk about the beautiful things, but and all the exciting things, but usually people are also eager to hear about the organization team, what is in store. Usually, because when it comes to competitions dying out, I always say that competitions are sustained by two things: either good memories or bad memories. People look on some of the best memories of these competitions and they tell the stories, and down the line, they become the lifeline of these competitions. People look at the bad memories, tell those stories, and down the line, they become the stories that are killing the competition. And so, what is in store from Ocom's perspective to create a story for people, to create memories for people that would down the line become a reference point for how good SAUDC can be and the standards it should be held up to.
Yes, so essentially for SAUDC, outcome that we've created, we are investing heavily in ensuring that we leave a lasting, tangible legacy. Because like you said, I've stressed to my outcome, the most important thing isn't just what you do right; it's also what you avoid going wrong. So we want to make
Yeah,
sure that everybody is comfortable, that they are welcomed, and the debates are the most competitive that they've seen. We're also trying to see if we can invest in terms of just fundraising, how it is we can make sure that just even the trophies that are received, just that alone is something that's legacy more than just bragging rights. We're
yeah,
trying to leave behind a legacy that we can pass on because, for example, for me, just already having this Orcom team, there's the CEO of public speaking, Buipolo Kaisai. I first met her when she was in junior school. She was like 15 years
wow,
old, and I judged her debate room by mistake. And ever since then, I've been mentoring her to the point where she was even at the international stage. She went into the semifinals of the World's Independent Public Speaking Championships, and she was
wow,
able to do something that even I couldn't do in public speaking. Actually, win
yeah,
SA nationals. The best I ever did was a second runner up. And for me, the legacy is that in Ocom, we're also going to invite over 50 junior and secondary schools. That's over
yeah,
200, 300 students, ideally. And if I can do a call back to what I said when I first started this podcast about the first time I saw debate was when I was still in high school. I think that's
yeah,
what our outcome is really trying to invest in. We want to leave a legacy behind in which the debate is not just about University of Botswana, what they do, because traditionally it's been UB that has been the most the most active in Southern African space. Because I know the
yeah,
first time I met Buemo, that is, I was actually a student at Botswana Accountancy College. And the clubs in UB, they invited us openly to train with
yeah,
them. So we want SAUDC to be that tournament that reignites debating championships within University of Botswana, especially for tertiary schools. Because you'll find a lot
yeah,
of tertiary schools don't even know that if you tell them we're having a debate, most of them they'll be like, what are the motions? They
yeah,
don't really understand the concept that these things are impromptu and the
yeah,
likes. So I think for me, I'm on a technical level. That's what I want SAUDC to leave behind, and then
yeah,
that's why I need your minis, your boemos, your fangs, your boipelos who can instill in them what it means to be a critical thinker,
yeah,
an eloquent speaker, and all those things. But for now, for SAUDC is going to leave behind the legacy of reigniting debating within Botswana. And that for me, that's what is going to make this the most memorable debating tournament for a long time. It's been a decade now, so it makes sense. All the stars have aligned. for SAUDC to make
Yeah.
that impact.
Yeah, I mean this is really really incredible looking at it from the perspective of getting high school students involved because this week I saw a quote that said that it's being a legend is really not about the knowledge with which you die, is about how empty you die, how much of what you know are you leaving out there and impacting people behind you. And knowing how vital high school debating has become in the world of debating, not just targeting the university level, but also having the foresight to say, look, beyond reigniting it on this front, I'm going to get these people into the loop to give them a sense of why they should fuel this channel, why they should think about joining debates when they're applying for college, when they're applying for the universities is really exciting. And for me, debate, I always tell people that debate is a sport for most people. For me, it is my life, right?
Yeah.
For it's changed critical thinking and being able to think freely, being able to um, construct issues have been the biggest skill I've learned, not my biology degree and not my science and maths and whatever I've learned in school comes close to the impact that being able to think and debate skills have given me as well. And so to see it being passed on to younger generations and presenting them an opportunity is really, really crucial. Um, Particularly in a world where we see the ability for us to be discerning individuals, deepfakes, AI, conversations being manipulated, and our ability for us to be very, very sound and independent individuals really relies on critical thinking. And so for you to have that goal and working with the team to get it done is really, really exciting to see as well. Now let's get into a few fine details about the competition. If you would like to share where it's happening, who is hosting, the cost involved, what people should be expecting in terms of. I mean, lots of people would kill me if I don't say socials. So, what people will be expecting in terms of the socials experience. In my defense, I'm not a socials fan. So, but for people's experiences' sake, what people should be expecting for socials as well, um, and generally what the package is for people, for us to know exactly what this SAUDC is going to look like for those who have intentions of attending. And Henry, you can pick on this one, and then later on I'll piggyback to Mini.
The one thing about being a University of Botswana student is that you will realize how important a good time is within the community that is the University of Botswana. Just like most universities, I want to believe, but it's so deeply entrenched to a point where the government at one point even banned the student bar from existence and it was even removed. And now
Wow.
now alcohol has been brought back into school, of course, but even people who were born in as recently as 2004, they know where the student bar is, despite the fact that it's been locked for years. We call it 411. So I just want to make it clear that the 411 of coming to SAUDC is that you are going to understand why it is. Botswana, we love having a good time. We love our liquor, and we love being friendly and sharing that experiences with others. And then
Yeah.
in terms of socials, right across the University of Botswana, we have what is called the Notwane Club, as it were, as
Yeah.
it's called. Now, this place shows some great significance in terms of what it is it has to the students. It's where artists perform. It's where first years they get to experience that first time being free, being adults.
Oh,
There's also all sorts of law reports of all the incidents that have happened there. We also want to show people why it is that the Western world, they are so obsessed with our wildlife and our and animals within Botswana. So we will be
yeah.
taking them to there's a place called Lion Park. Believe it
Yeah.
or not, I didn't know why it was called Lion Park for a very long time, until I think at the time in 2018 I went there, and lo and behold, there's just lions chilling in the cages there. I just thought it was an amusement park of sorts. So and we have an amusement park with lions. I'll
Wow.
repeat this again: an amusement park with lions. How often do you see that kind of thing? And then we also have all sorts of socials that we have planned up, geared up. We are exploring the idea of taking people to the revamped museum that's happening in the center of Gaborone and all the like. So
Yeah.
essentially, people will get to understand why it is Botswana love their beer, why Botswana love their meat, and Botswana love their relationship with others. And I think that's the most important thing of today of the socials that will be happening at the University of Botswana. It's such a deeply embedded part of our culture that we're not even going to have to try. You just need to walk out into the sun of Gaborone and you'll see yourself having a good time. That's the most I
Yeah.
can say, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I tend to not like socials, but one thing I can't lie about is that experiencing people's culture, tradition,
Mm,
um, history, like what makes them the people that they are, is one that you can't run away from once you visit a particular place. And debate competitions would always make sure that beyond just getting a feel of the competitive aspect, you get to experience who they are, what they believe in, what makes them the people that they are, and what identifies them as a collective people. And some of the
yeah,
things that you are mentioning are really things that really enrich the experiences of people at these competitions. I hope people are listening, they troop in to come and experience and then share their stories later on. Um, but with all the cool things that Henry is describing, also comes the heated moments of truth of being lashed in the top room, getting the fourth and dropping to the bottom of the tab, and all
yeah,
the heated experiences within the debate aspect of it. Sometimes, if you're on cap, probably it even drains you more because
yeah.
you have to be dealing with the tons of negative feedback that's coming with all the competitiveness and everything around that. But generally, what do you also create, what are you looking for people to look forward to in the competition, the great motions, what is CAP going to be? I just like to be the troublesome person on CAP when I'm there because I like to poke people a little bit,
Yeah.
but I know Buemo is much more friendly than
Mm,
I am. uh, you you are definitely much more peaceful than I am.
yes.
So what sort of environment should people be looking forward to?
I think I'm also a very non-confrontational person. I'm always joking around that sometimes if I find you stealing from me, I'd run away because I just can't confront you. I'll let you go. So I think Boyamo is the balance in that when he's serious, everybody takes Boyamo
Yeah,
seriously. When it's down to
yeah,
work, it's down to work.
yeah,
Um, from me, you will obviously expect the peacemaker, the one who tries to make everyone happy, but at the same time, you're definitely going to get a lot of pushing and a lot of serious because I'm a workaholic. I really
yeah,
want to work. I go crazy when people say, "Well, how about we have lunch first before we have a round?" And I'm just like, "No, no, 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 no. We don't have to eat. I really want to get the work done." And
yeah,
I'm very pushy in that end, and I'm just hoping that we get a pool of DCAs that are eager to work, that are eager to deliver, and that are also at the same time very friendly people because it's very hard to work with controversial individuals that are
yeah,
always trying to stir up some drama. So
yeah,
the idea here is to just have a great team of people, individuals who love working together, who love working and who are excited and who are creative and who really have a vision of
yeah,
what we want to see SAUDC as. And you get that through motions, through the briefing, through the legacy of adjudicators, even in that tournament itself that you have.
yeah,
And I think it's what we promise you, it's what we promise to deliver. Great
yeah,
motions, relevant motions, an exciting group of individuals to work with, kind, polite,
yeah,
but also very serious. I think
yeah.
that's what we epitomize, and yeah,
I mean, I think that's obviously the best. Like people can dream to have,
yeah,
because some of the most distinct memories people carry away from debate competitions are really what happens in the debate room, the
mm,
rounds itself, the feedback they get, the
yeah,
motions, and whether or not they enjoy the motions that they debate.
mm,
Because to be fair, those are the most distinct memories. I, for instance, carry, oh, this round that we did at PAUDC or at Accra Open or at this competition, and we had this person in OG and OO, and it was really, really exciting. And then you tend to realize that as much as we talk about the organizing team, creating the environment, planning and executing things, the CAs also have a key role to play in the kind of memories that people take away from that competition as well. And I'm really happy to hear that you are set up and also constructing a team that would obviously deliver the best of experiences to
Yeah, yeah.
people. Yeah. Wrapping up this episode, Minnie, any final words for your listeners and also particularly people from the SADC region who are looking forward to this year's SAUDC?
I'd say come prepared. I have a good feeling about this one. I think
Yeah,
it's really going to. I have a strong feeling that our PUTC champion is definitely going to be at this SAUTC making waves.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
saying, watch out, West Africa. I think just get familiar with the trophy one more time before it comes back to SADC.
Ooh,
If you
okay.
this year's SAUTC, then you might be the PUTC champion. So very excited about the
Interesting.
tournament, and I hope to see everyone there. And
Yeah,
it's Botswana. I mean, who what doesn't want to come to Botswana? It's going to be so much fun, and hope to
yeah,
see everyone there. Yeah.
yeah. Henry, any final words from you as well?
So yes, as Minnie has said, we're trying to get back the title that's actually ours. We're trying to get back on top of the pile to prove why Southern Africa is where debate really begins. And for me,
Yeah,
it's been a humbling, sobering experience because I get to now meet all these great individuals, all these great debaters. In my time that I was off debate, all these names like Minnie, yourself, I just used to see them all the Facebook pages. It's like I'm with celebrities right now. That's the feeling. So I'm just hoping that I know rather, this year's SAUDC is gonna create more celebrities for
Yeah.
more
yeah,
people. And I
yeah,
really hope those that make it to Botswana, they don't forget to try the biltong that we have here. And with those few short sentiments, I'm just thankful for everyone, for my team, for trying
yeah.
to make this event happen. And I look forward to seeing everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, being on the shaft to talk about SAUDC is also an indication of the amount of efforts, the goal, the dedication, and the ambition behind the competition. And I'm sure, I hope also that being here would go a long way to inform people, get them excited about the competition.
Mm.
And just to wrap this up, I just thought about a title for this, and I'm like, it's very simple and plain that SAUDC is back, and it's definitely back, and we are going to be enjoying the experiences as well. Yeah. So thanks very much, Minnie and Henry, for joining for this episode. Thank you for listening and watching. Leave your comments, your expectations, schools that you think would be winning this year's SAEDC in the comment section. And we'll be back after the competition to discuss whether or not your predictions were a hit or a miss. See you on the next one.